an era of great West Indian fast bowlers, he was the greatest. He bowled superbly on wickets the world over. He played with great intelligence and had a wry sense of humour. Brutally fast and ruthlessly accurate, Malcolm Marshall is one of ESPN's legends of cricket. Headingley, Leeds, 1984. Malcolm Marshall smashed his left thumb while fielding. It was assumed he would take no further part in the game. But not only did he bat, he bowled in devastating fashion.
And he's gone, caught and bowled with one hand.
I remember when he broke his hand at Leeds and we thought that they thought that he wasn't going to play. And I said, well, hey, would you like to play? And he was surprised that I'd asked him. And he said, yes, I will.
And he's gone this time. Inside edge, I suspect. Marshall has 7 wickets. His best ever figures in Test match cricket, 7 for 53.
And it just shows you, the type of spirit that we had in those days. I mean, could you ask one of these guys with a broken arm to play? I mean, but that's what we were all about. We were very good professionals, very good family, and we wanted to win.
Marshall was not tall for a fast bowler. Rather than being a drawback, this allowed him to skid the ball through to batsmen.
And that was a bouncer which hurt him.
When you have that sort of pace, when you have the kind of skill that he had, moving the ball in both directions and the variety that he had, you are bound to be a great fast bowler because of the hard work that he put in. And that was Malcolm Marshall. Great skill, great control, lots of hard work. There was nothing that could have stopped him.
He bowled a slippery, skiddy bouncer, caused all batsmen problems, could swing it at a high pace. On this day, he was unplayable.
Oh, and first ball, Malcolm Marshall has ripped the Yorker right through him.
He ran through the crease with lovely fluid action, and he generated a great deal of pace. He was a skidder. A lot of the tall guys will hit the pitch and rear it up at you. But Malcolm skidded it from there, and you weren't quite sure if it was coming there or there or there. And a very dangerous bowler and a very, very good one.
An average of 21, amazing stats, and he's hurt everyone. He can hit you in the head and hurt you, then he'd come up and bowl nice out swingers or in swingers. He had all of it. I think if you wanted to bowl leg spin, he'd be great at that.
Beyond his raw ability, Marshall had an exceptional cricketing brain.
Ruthless, that's what he was, and you knew that when you played against him, that he was ruthless. But a lovely guy off the field. Would talk about bowling, and I was lucky enough one night in the Caribbean to be listening to him talking at the bar, about when he first found out about reverse swing. He just literally held the ball one way and it started to go, and within 3 balls he knew what the ball was doing.
Marshall had it all. He was a sensational bowler, and when you think that West Indies in the 1980s had so many fast bowlers to choose from, to be able to point at Marshall and say unequivocally that he was the greatest of those quick bowlers is the best thing you can say about him. He was just head and shoulders above so many of his contemporaries.
I must say that he had a very economical run-up, and for this very lopey sort of economical run-up and slight wrong foot action, he was furiously fast and very deceptive as well.
And he's bowled it.
I thought he was a complete fast bowler. Could do everything with the ball, in swingers, out swingers. If it wasn't swinging, he could seam it off the deck, He was just complete. He had good pace. And I think above all, he was smart with it, So that's why I give him the edge above everybody else.
Well, there's the stump that got broken with the ball hitting the middle stump, Martin Crowe's middle stump.
One of the complete bowlers of all time. I've read a lot about the great Dennis Leary, one of the greatest bowler of all time. But in my book, I pick up a bowler who was the greatest of all time. Has to be Malcolm Marshall.
That's LBW. And Malcolm Marshall has now taken his 300th Test match wicket. Malcolm Marshall joins the 300 club.
Marshall's Test career began in 1978-79 after just one first-class game. He didn't immediately excel at the top level, but he did enough to book a place in the West Indies squad for the 1979 World Cup. He made his first real impact on a Test match at Old Trafford in 1980. He took 3 wickets in 14 balls, but would not fully establish himself in the Test side for another 2.5 years.
He bowled in the nets and he was rapid. This short fellow, youngster, ran in and bowled so quickly that we all thought to ourselves, this guy has real pace. We never immediately think to ourselves it's going to be a great, because you don't see many fast bowlers of that stature being great fast bowlers. But we thought this guy is going to develop, he's going to be a really fantastic bowler. 1980 in England, when he started to move the ball all around with that pace, we all knew then he was going to make it.
I was a young guy coming in playing county cricket, Surrey v Hampshire, and I remember it was down at Basingstoke, and he was just going through the gears really. He was, wasn't bowling top whack, but he managed to still glove me onto my helmet, smashed into my helmet pretty hard, and then looped up to gully. And I'm almost, as a young kid, 18, quite happy to start walking off the boundary, only for the umpire to put out his arm, call it a no ball. So I had to come back and face more and more of this.
After taking 134 wickets in the 1982 English county season, Marshall finally made his mark in a home series against India in early 1983 when he took 21 wickets.
Malcolm Marshall got wickets against India, in India, against Pakistan, in Pakistan. If you see his county record, if you see his one-day record, if you see his test record, he was a phenomenal bowler. You see, the beauty about Malcolm Marshall was that he used to pick up the weakness of batsmen in 2 deliveries. That's why he was a genius.
The following year, again against India, Marshall starred with both bat and ball. He took 33 wickets in 6 tests and made 240 runs, including his highest test score of 92 in the series opener.
He was a typical calypso cricketer, really. He was really swung from the hip. He batted number 8 as a rule, and in a lineup that included the likes of Haynes, Logie, Greenwich, Richards, and even Jeff Dujon at number 7. There was no real need for him to be any better than a number 8, and he was an incredibly effective number 8. He really could have scored more runs than he did, but as it happens, he didn't need to, especially given that he averaged 20 with the ball.
Hook from Marshall high in the air and over the top for 6.
His late order batting was a thorn in the side of opposing teams, but with the ball in hand, Marshall was feared the world over.
Taking strike. That's it. The breakthrough. Dyson's gone.
Malcolm Marshall was truly a thinking bowler. If you sat down and spoke to Malcolm Marshall, you'd understand how he worked batsmen out, how much he knew about the game. And also the fact that he knew exactly what he wanted to do every time a batsman came to the crease. He didn't try to feel them out initially. He knew in his head immediately, from past experience, from what people had told him, what he wanted to do. And if that didn't work, he would have some other plan.
On a lifeless Adelaide wicket, Marshall bowled one of his finest spells. As all the other bowlers struggled, he took 5 for 69 and 5 for 38.
And he's gone right through him. Beautiful delivery from Malcolm Marshall. Had Alan Border all squared up.
And the West Indies were trying to bowl us out on the last day, which they subsequently did, but it was because of Malcolm Marshall. He bowled a spell between lunch and tea, non-stop. So we're talking 2 hours of bowling. It's 100 degrees, as it is generally at that time of year in Adelaide. And he just rushed in. He decided that he had to really have a red-hot go off his long run, bowled real good pace, and just broke the back of our batting so that the West Indies end up getting a victory in that particular game. And that, to me, just sums up what it's all about with him. Other bowlers wouldn't have been able to do that, and even other bowlers that the West Indies had at their disposal, the Joel Garners and Michael Holdings, wouldn't have been able to sustain that like Malcolm Marshall did that particular day, and throughout his career.
By the end of the 1984-85 tour of Australia, he'd taken 5 wickets or more in an innings, 11 times in 14 tests.
Perhaps Malcolm thought, okay, Australia have produced so many great fast bowlers, let me show them that I, not from Australia, can be just as great as anything that they produce.
Oh, that's a brute of a delivery.
For the next 2 years, Marshall was irresistible. In terms of tests played, he became the quickest player to reach 200 wickets. He was at times ferocious.
He was a brute of a bowler for me because he bowled so aggressively and it was at you so often, so accurate, that there was never ever any let up. His bouncer was the most dangerous bouncer because it was always threatening. It was, at times life-threatening.
Marshall's intelligence allowed him to think a batsman out when conditions were against him. He excelled on the subcontinent, normally purgatory for fast bowlers. In Lahore in 1986, he took 5 for 33 from 18 overs.
Malcolm was a complete fast bowler in the sense that he was capable of swinging the ball at tremendous pace. He was capable of bowling on very flat wickets, and when the ball wasn't swinging, just putting it there, probably rolling his fingers over, trying to cut it. But he knew exactly what to do for different conditions and different batsmen, and apart from that, he was willing to work for his wickets.
He worked very hard at his bowling, he worked very hard at his fitness. Malcolm Marshall is one of the first guys that I recognized to put so much weight and hard work into his legs, because he ran in that fast. He knew his legs had to carry, so he put a lot of hard work into those legs to build them up to get them strong.
At Old Trafford in 1988, Malcolm Marshall took 5 wickets in an hour, finishing with 7 for 22 as England were dismissed for 93.
Marshall was at his absolute peak in England in 1988. It was in something of a transition period for the West Indies in terms of fast bowlers. Holding and Garner had retired the previous year. Ambrose had just come into the side. Walsh was still evolving into the great bowler that he was through the 90s. So Malcolm Marshall was definitely the man, and he rose to that. Whereas he'd been the leading bowler in a great side earlier, in 88 he really needed to climb up, and he did that so well, and never was that better illustrated than when he took 7 for 22 in that 88 series.
In Australia in 1988-89, Marshall took 5 for 29 on the spin-friendly Sydney Cricket Ground wicket.
The Sydney Cricket Ground curator produced a pitch, a spinner's pitch. There was so much a spinner's pitch that Alan Border took 11 wickets in the test. I mean, it took 7 for him one innings, and with all due respect to Border, he wasn't a test-class spin bowler. And yet on that same wicket, which was so dead for fast bowlers, Malcolm Marshall came out and adapted it to the conditions to the stage where he took 5 for 29 off 31 overs.
We're talking about a bowler here that, you can imagine facing him in Brisbane or Perth where, there's bounce and a little bit of sideways movement. He'd run in and bowl absolute express pace and be hard work on those conditions. But we're talking about a wicket here in Sydney that was a bit more of a turner, pretty flat facing the fast bowlers, and he still finds a way to get people out. Shortens his run, runs his finger over the seam. Just a very, very capable fast bowler in all conditions.
He really knew the art of bowling, and I can remember one day here in Sydney where the ball never got above stump high at any stage of the game. It was certainly not a fast bowler's wicket, and yet he bowled superbly and got the wickets. And to me, it was only because of his enormous skills.
Marshall's international career ended after the 1991 tour of England. He played for Hampshire until 1993 and for Natal in South Africa until 1994-95.
I just realised how sharp you had to be as a batsman against somebody like this. Massive skill factor, be able to bowl a couple of in-swingers and then to be able to whip one across a left-hander, pass the throat, find the edge.
He's played for Hampshire for quite a few years, and I think that's the one thing that West Indian fast bowlers especially learned about cricket. When you played in England, okay, the conditions were changeable every single day. You might get a good pitch, a bad one. Conditions allow you to swing the ball, and I think Malcolm Marshall, more than most of us, learned from all of that.
He led Natal to the Castle Cup title and was named one of South Africa's Cricketers of the Year. he was an enormously influential figure on emerging all-rounder Sean Pollock.
He had a huge impact on my career. Obviously it was the end of his, but he had so much knowledge and so much of a feel for the game that he really did teach me so much and really helped me progress as a cricketer.
Not just Sean Pollock. I mean, there are plenty of black kids in South Africa, which has, of course, been the big challenge. And I think that Malcolm Marshall was also smart enough to realise that he could make a difference. I mean, to go to South Africa so soon after things had changed from the apartheid system into this new democratic society, and to actually show what a black guy could do.
Malcolm Marshall is the type of guy. If you go around the world wherever you went, people will tell you. Malcolm Marshall is the type of guy that will pass on his skills to other people, his knowledge of the game, help other people.
Marshall on his way to him. Oh, he's bowled in, and Marshall runs down the wicket.
Those who played alongside Marshall say that no matter what level of cricket he was playing, he never gave less than 100%.
Malcolm Marshall's the best West Indian bowler I've ever seen. He had a wonderfully competitive nature, but no matter what the conditions, he could bowl on it. I think you have a look at Malcolm Marshall's record. He toured India, he toured Pakistan, he toured everywhere. And he performed in every country. He had superb control, he bowled superb line and length. His variations were tremendous.
Good student of the game. He learned as he went. He was never perfect in his mind. And I mean, we've talked until the day, literally, that he died. But I will tell you, Malcolm Marshall in his mind was never perfect. He was always trying to get better.
Marshall became ill with colon cancer during the 1999 World Cup. Chemotherapy was ineffective, and he died in November 1999. Among his pallbearers were 5 West Indian captains.
The real sadness with Malcolm Marshall was he died so young. A really nice chap, made friends everywhere in the world. Played cricket in England for Hampshire, and made great friends across that part of the world as well. Did what he did down in South Africa, highly regarded by Australians and everybody. So to lose him so young was very sad.
Malcolm Marshall had contributed greatly to cricket and influenced many of those who followed him. Most importantly, he played the game with intensity, honesty, and joy in the best traditions of West Indian cricket.
Was a very delightful person. Only a few months before he died, 3 months before he died actually, I sat with him through 2 sessions at a test match in Barbados, and I have never enjoyed 2 hours or 3 hours with him more with any other player I can recall. It was just a marvellous time to talk about. And he was talking about young players coming through, and he was talking about the skills that he used. And it was just fun to listen to him. His knowledge of cricket was enormous.
In an era that was absolutely ruled by West Indian fast bowlers, he is the greatest of that breed. And you can't say anything fairer than that. He was possibly among the shortest, but he was, in terms of stature, he was far and away the tallest.
Everyone I speak to that had anything to do with facing Malcolm Marshall on a regular basis has him right up there with the very best.
Malcolm Marshall played in 81 test matches. He took 376 wickets at an average of 20.94. He made 1,810 runs at an average of 18.85 and took 25 catches. He took 5 wickets in an innings on 22 occasions and 10 wickets in a match 4 times.
Even now we all sit back and we often get with the West Indians or even with the English boys and we have a few drinks, and his name always comes up as one of the great bowlers. And it's just so sad that he's passed away. We always think of him, we always raise a glass.
You've probably got half a dozen, 10 real quality fast bowlers to choose from, but I think day in, day out, in all conditions, I'd have to say that Malcolm Marshall is my pick. But you'll get different players that will come up with a different answer, but yeah, he was something special.
For his sheer pace and his intelligent use of it, for his total commitment to giving his all in every match, for his revered status in West Indies cricket, and for his influence on today's finest fast bowlers, Malcolm Marshall joins the ranks of ESPN's Legends of Cricket.